something shifted while you were sleeping. And I want to describe that specific quality of something changing in the dark in the hours when neither of you was performing anything, when the ordinary management of how things appear between you was suspended, because I think it's the most honest thing about this moment. Last night wasn't planned. Whatever happened, whatever the specific texture of it, however it unfolded, it wasn't engineered, wasn't the result of either of you deciding this would be the moment. It arrived in the way that real things tend to arrive, through the accumulated weight of everything preceding it, finally finding a crack in the ordinary. A moment where the usual distance between what's felt and what's expressed became too narrow to maintain. And something came through that crack, something that cannot be unfelt by either of you. Let me describe what's happening in them right now. Because they woke up this morning different, not dramatically, not with a visible shift that anyone around them would immediately name, internally different, in the specific way of someone whose interior landscape has been reconfigured by something that happened and can't be unhappened. They're sitting with it. Whatever they're doing on the surface, whatever the ordinary morning requires of them underneath it, they're sitting with what last night produced, running it, not analyzing exactly, more like returning to it. The way you return to something that surprised you, that landed with more weight than you anticipated, that revealed something you weren't expecting to find about you, about what they feel, about the specific, undeniable reality of what exists between you when neither of you is managing it. Hold on, because I want to stay with what last night actually was in quality, in what it represented beyond the surface of what occurred. It was honest. That's what I keep finding. Whatever the specific events, whatever was said or done or simply present between you, the quality underneath all of it was honesty. A moment where both of you were less filtered than usual, where the ordinary mechanisms for maintaining appropriate distance weren't fully operational. And in that lowered filter state, something true was communicated, not necessarily in words. Sometimes the most significant communications happen in the space between words, in how someone is present with you, in what they don't do as much as what they do, in the specific quality of attention they bring when they're not thinking about how they're bringing it. Last night, they weren't thinking about how they were bringing it, they were just there with you. And the being there with you produced something in them they hadn't fully accounted for. There's an image, a dam, that has been holding something not broken, not compromised, just for one specific stretch of time. The pressure on one side became equal to the capacity of the other side to contain it. And in that equalization, something passed through. Not everything, not the flood of complete breakdown, just something, a specific, irreversible amount of what had been contained, finding its way to the other side. And now both sides are changed, not dramatically. Measurably, the pressure is different, the container is different, and they can feel the difference in everything since last night, in how your name sits in them, in how the thought of you lands, in the specific impossibility of returning to the casual relationship with what they feel that last night dismantled. The more I sit with this, the more I keep finding something about the can't be without you quality, and I want to examine it honestly, because can't be without you is a significant thing to say, a significant thing to feel. And I want to give it the respect of genuine examination rather than simply letting it be the conclusion. They've discovered something through last night that they didn't fully know before, or knew but hadn't let themselves feel with full force. The specific texture of what it's like to be without you in the real, embodied, this is what my life lacks sense has become clearer, not as an abstract understanding, but as a felt, located in the body knowing. And that kind of knowing, the somatic kind, the kind that lives in the nervous system rather than just in the mind, is different from intellectual understanding of the same information. You can know something intellectually and manage it. You can't manage the felt version in the same way. It keeps surfacing. Wait, I want to add something here because I've been in this reading space for a long time with you across many scripts, and I want to make sure what I'm offering you is genuinely useful rather than simply resonant. Can't be without you is real. And feeling like you can't be without someone and actually showing up for them consistently over time are two different experiences. The first is about absence revealing value. The second is about presence demonstrating it. Last night revealed something to them, showed them the value through a moment of particular clarity, and that revelation is genuine and significant. What it needs to become to mean what you deserve it to mean is evidence, not just feeling evidence. The specific behavioral shows up in ordinary moments, not just significant ones, evidence that someone has genuinely integrated what they've discovered, that the revelation of last night doesn't stay in last night, travels forward into how they show up for you, into the Tuesday afternoons, into the moments when nothing special is happening, into the choice made repeatedly and without external pressure to be the person last night suggested they wanted to be. There's something about this morning specifically that keeps pulling at me. They reached for their phone not to do something specific, to be closer to you somehow, in the particular, slightly irrational way that people reach for their phones when someone is on their mind in a way that physical distance makes frustrating. They might have opened your conversation, read something you'd said previously, looked at something connected to you, not with a plan, with the specific need of someone whose mind is full of a person and whose body is trying to close a distance the body can't actually close right now. And in that reaching, something became clear that I want to try to name. They want more access to you, not just the occasional significant moment, the daily access, the ordinary kind, the kind where you're part of the texture of their regular life rather than something they encounter in specific highlighted moments. They want your ordinary, not because your ordinary is ordinary, because having someone's ordinary means you actually have them. I want to describe what last night is doing to the structure of things between you, because significant moments don't just live in themselves. They reorganize the landscape around them, retroactively change how certain things look, give new meaning to things that seemed to mean something else before. And what's happening right now in them, in the aftermath, is exactly that kind of retroactive reorganization. They're going back through things. The specific interactions that preceded last night, moments they were present for that they're now rereading in light of what last night revealed, things they said or didn't say that look different now, things you did or were that they noted and filed and are now retrieving with a different understanding of why they filed them so carefully. The archive of you in them is being re examined, with last night as the interpretive lens. And what the re examination is revealing is that last night wasn't actually surprising, was actually the natural conclusion of something that had been building for long enough that they should have understood it sooner. That realization, the recognition of how long this has been true, is its own particular weight. I want to talk about you now. Because this reading has been about them, about their experience of last night, about what's shifted in them and what they're sitting with and what can't be without you actually means from the inside. But you were there too. And something happened in you last night as well. And I want to give that appropriate space rather than moving past it in favor of describing their experience. Something in you registered last night as significant, not just as a moment, as data, as information about something you'd been uncertain about, as the specific confirmation of a sensing you'd had but hadn't been able to fully trust because confirmation wasn't yet available. And now it is. And the confirmation sitting in you this morning, in whatever form it's taking, whatever the specific texture of processing that you're doing, that confirmation is producing something. Something that has its own quality of can't go back to before. There's something I want to name about the kind of change last night produced. Not all change is created equal. There's the change of deciding something, of making a resolution, of arriving at a position intellectually and committing to acting differently from it. That kind of change is real and legitimate. It's also reversible, is subject to the erosion that good intentions are always subject to, can dissolve under the pressure of ordinary circumstances reasserting themselves. And then there's the change of understanding something in your body, of having an experience that rewires something at a level below decision, below intention, below the places where reasoning operates. The kind of change where you don't decide to see something differently, you simply do. Because something happened that made the previous way of seeing unavailable. Last night produced the second kind of change in both of you. And the second kind is significantly more durable. There's an image that keeps coming. Two people standing in ordinary light suddenly finding themselves in different light. Not because anything external changed, because something shifted in the quality of how they were seeing each other. The light was always available, the clarity was always possible. But something about last night aligned the conditions in a way that made visible what had always been there. And you can't unsee something once you've seen it clearly. Can't return to the softer focus that made certain things ignorable. The clarity is in the room now, between you, whether you're in the same physical space or separate ones. The clarity traveled, and what it revealed is real. I want to say something about what comes next, because last night changed something that's established, that's real, and the changed something is going to require navigation, not crisis navigation. The kind of navigation that happens when the landscape has shifted and both people need to find their footing in the new terrain. And navigation requires communication, real communication. The kind that honors what last night actually was, rather than the kind that immediately moves to minimize it or categorize it in a way that makes it more manageable but less true. What last night was significant. And the conversation that follows it, whenever it happens in whatever form, deserves to be sized appropriately to that significance. Not a conversation that pretends last night was less than it was. A conversation that meets it honestly, that says, something happened. I felt it. It changed something in me. I'd like to understand what it changed in you. Simple as that. Honest as that. Real as that. The last thing. Last night changed everything is the kind of sentence that sounds like hyperbole until you're inside an experience that earns it. And I think you know from the particular quality of this morning, from whatever the specific texture of what you're carrying right now, that this sentence is not hyperbole. Not everything in the cosmic sense, everything in the specific sense. The specific relationship you had with uncertainty about this person changed. The specific distance that had been maintainable before changed. The specific way you understand what exists between you changed. And the person on the other side of last night is sitting with the same changed landscape, wondering how to navigate it, wanting to navigate it toward you. Not because last night manufactured something, because last night finally got out of the way of something that was already real. Something that had been real for longer than either of you probably wants to admit. And real things, when they finally have room to breathe, don't go back to being contained. They simply are fully in the open where they always belonged.